welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be creating some teacher appreciation cards using this month's Spellbinders clubs. But these cards could be used for teacher appreciation, for a card to give a pupil or student at the end of term. They could be used as graduation cards. There's loads of different uses for them. So let's get on and make some cards. So the first card that I'm going to create uses the Stamp and Die of the month. So we've got this cute stamp set with some sentiments and then the crayon and some face and things that you can put on the crayon. And usually I would stamp and then die cut something, but for these I think it's going to be best to die cut and then stamp. So you can see that I've already die cut some from white cardstock. So you can see you get the die for the crayon, you've got dies for different sentiments, and then you can also see that you've got dies that will fit around the different shapes of legs and arms, but there's then also space for the crayon. So that is why I think it's easier to die cut them first and then stamp them on, because then you can make sure you're getting everything in the right place. So that one goes with those arms, this one goes with these arms, then this one goes with these kind of up in the air arms. You've got one if you want the crayon on its own. You've got dies for all the different sentiments, and then you've got this one which kind of goes around that, and you could make this into a kind of like Crayola style crayon using that as well. So I've used the three that have the different arm shapes to cut out these, and then I can build up some crayons. So I'm going to bring in my grippy mat. You have to excuse the light flare off my overhead light on that, but it'll help me keep the pieces in place. So I'm going to pop these on here, and then I don't have to worry about holding them down while I'm stamping. So I'm going to make the first crayon a blue one. So I'm going to go in with the Sapphire. I'm using Crisp Dye inks here from Altenew, but you can use any ones that are in your stash. I'm just going to stamp that on there, and then I'm going to use the Sapphire blue for kind of like the body of the crayon. So then for this next one I'm going to use Honey Drizzle and Maple Yellow, and then for the final one I'm going to use Hunter Green and Just Green. So then I'm going to go in with some black ink, and I'm going to stamp on the little legs and arms. And then I'm going to add on some faces. So now we've got our three little cute characters. So I'm going to grab some black cardstock, and I'm going to use To the Best Teacher. You've also got To the Best Student, You're the Boldest Crayon in the Box, You're the Brightest Crayon I Know, and Yay. So you can see it can be used for all sorts of different occasions. I just want to create some cards for my son's teachers today. So I'm going to heat emboss that in white embossing powder. So then I'm going to cut that out with the coordinating die. So then I've got a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch red card blank. Then I've got a 3 1/2 by 4 3/4 inch piece of white cardstock and a piece of black that's 1/8 of an inch bigger than that. I'm going to bring in my box. You can see it's a really dirty box because I use this for like doing all sorts of splatter things. And I'm just going to bring in this calligraphy ink, and I'm just going to give it a little splatter. So then I'm going to glue the white piece to the black piece, and then I'm going to add some foam behind this black piece. And you can see it's foam that I've kind of die cut and used, and then I'm just going to add some more in the middle. Got to make sure you use up all your scraps. So then I'm going to add some foam pads behind my crayons. And then I'm just going to add a foam strip behind my sentiment as well. So then there's that first card done. So then for the next card, I'm going to use the Glimmer of the Month Club. So we've got these pencils. We've got a die that can cut out the individual pencils if you want to use them in a different way. Then we've got hello, scribbled a note to say, thank you, congrats and happy birthday. So obviously you'd use this one with the others. So you could use say happy birthday or thank you or congrats or hello on its own, or you can say scribbled a note to say one of those things. So each month you get a foil with the Glimmer of the Month Club. And this month is that gorgeous satin pewter. But I actually want to use black for this. So I'm going to use black that was already in my stash. So I want to cut a piece of foil that's going to fit my plate. So I'm going to add this onto some white cardstock. I actually want it to fit across my card. So I'm going to add it on like that. Now add that over the top. And then I'm going to tape it down. And then my glimmer machine's heated up, so I'm going to pop that on there. I always try to put these kind of flat ones at a little bit of an angle because it makes it easier for it to go in the machine. And then I'm going to press timer, and once that stopped flashing I can put it through my die cutting machine. So now I can run this through my die cutting machine. So then we can pull that off, and we've got those fun pencils on there. So then I'm going to colour these with my Olo markers. So now my pencil's coloured in. So then I've got a red card blank and I'm going to glue my pencils across it. Then I've got some thin strips of black cardstock and I'm going to glue those across the seams in there. I think that just helps give it a bit more of a finished look. And then I've just foiled that, scribbled a note to say thank you in silver onto the black cardstock, just the same way I did with the black onto the white cardstock. And I'm just going to grab some foam pads and pop them behind. And I think that's quite nice because it could be a teacher appreciation card, but it could also just be any old thank you card. So then for my next card, I'm going to be doing some stenciling with the cute Stencil of the Month Club. So you can see you've got layering stencils for the pencils and you've also got this kind of circular, it looks like a bit like a domed background. So I'm going to do the stencils in the order that they say, which means that this one, which is the end of the pencil, is number 1. They put some like corner pieces in each corner so you can see where you want to line it up. So I'm going to grab my Crimson Ultra New Crisp Dye ink and I'm going to do those in red. And then this one is number 2, but I feel like that's not the most obvious one to go next. So I'm going to switch to number 3. I feel like that's easier to line up. So I'm going to go a little rogue. So then I'm going to come in with the maple yellow. So then I'm going to go back to this one now that was supposed to be number 2. And this grippy mat's really good for just keeping those edges down as well. So then I'm going to use this pink sand for these end bits. So then for this final layer I'm going to go in with black. So then I think that's really fun. So I've cut this at an angle, so that's going to go at the top of my card. I've got this red panel that I've just embossed with the embossing folder of the month, and then I'm going to just heat emboss a sentiment to go across the middle of those 2 panels. So then I'm going to go with that to the best teacher from the stamp of the month again. Then I'm going to glue that emboss panel to the bottom of my card. And then I'm going to glue this panel over the top. And then I'm going to add some foam behind here. And then I'm going to add this across here. And then I can trim off the ends. And then I'm just going to add on a few of these enamel dots. And then that's that card done. So then for the next one, I'm going to use the BETTERPRESS of the month. And I'm going to use it just like I would a normal stamp, in that I'm going to heat emboss with it. So if you don't have a BETTERPRESS machine and you have a background stamp that you can use, then you could do that. You could also use some pattern paper in the background or something like that. So you can see that I've got a piece of watercolor paper. It's a little bit smaller than the A2 size. And then I've got the BETTERPRESS of the month. So it's just a load of letters basically. And then you've got, you complete my alphabet, and from A to Z, you inspire me. So I'm going to pop that on here. I'm going to ink it up with my watermark ink. I'm going to add this on the top, and then I'm going to pop it through my die cutting machine. So now I'm going to heat emboss that, which you're not going to see very well yet because I'm going to do white embossing powder. You could do this in either white or clear because we're going to do an emboss resist technique with it. So you won't be able to see that too well yet, but now we're going to do a resist technique. So I'm going to use an acrylic block as a paint palette, and you might have seen me use these before because these are my kind of go-to paints when I want to create a rainbow. So they're the Ultimate Artistry paints, and I've got Toluidine red, Phthalo blue, and permanent yellow deep. And I'm just putting a teeny bit of those out. So I'm going to start with the yellow because that's the lightest colour, so I don't want to contaminate it. And I'm just mixing in some water, and then I'm going to start just a little bit from the top, and I'm going to add that right across my page. And I'm going to stop about a third of the way from the bottom. You can see how beautifully those letters show up now. So then I can rinse off my brush, and then I'm going to go in with my blue. So I'm going to start a little over the yellow, and I'm going to go right the way down to the bottom. And then I'm going to grab my red. You can see how much paint those teeny tiny dots of colour gave us, and it's really saturated as well. So I'm going in with the red from the top about a third of the way down, and then I'm going to go over a bit of that blue at the bottom as well to kind of create our purple. So now we've got a full rainbow. I'm just going to go back in with a bit of yellow over those lines, so just so that they merge a little bit better. And then we've got this gorgeous rainbow with those letters showing through. So I'm going to pop that to one side for a minute. So then for the focal point for this card, I'm going to use this crayon, and it's really similar to the stamped ones that we did earlier. But this is the gift that you get this month if you buy the Deluxe Caboodle. Now the Deluxe Caboodle is, I think now $130 in the US and £130 in the UK. And you get every single one of the Spellbinders clubs. So that's 10 clubs and a free gift. And all that's included in the $130 or the £130. So it's really worth considering if you're going to buy a few of the clubs, because you do save a lot of money rather than buying them all individually, and you also get a free gift. So this is really cute. You get the crayon, so you could use that on its own. You could use it with one of these pieces to make it look more like a Crayola crayon. But then we've also got the faces. You've got two faces on this one, and the arms and legs. So I've gone with these little jumpy legs. mainly because my little boy's always bouncing around. So I thought that would be fun for his teachers. So I'm just going to glue these pieces together. I've used these two together to create this one that's got the face in it, and then just the outline one on its own to create the black one, so that I've got one to go behind this so that the features appear in black. And then I'll glue that to the actual crayon piece. And there's score lines on it as well to show where the pieces should go, so there's no guesswork. And then I'm going to just add a bit of glue onto here, and I can pop his legs behind there. And then we can also just add on his arms. I think that looks really sweet. So then I'm going to grab that same To The Best Teacher stamp again, and I'm going to heat emboss that in white on the black cardstock. And then I've just die cut that out with the coordinating die as well. So then I actually cut this down quite a lot. So this now is 2 3/4 by 4 inches. I've got this piece that is 1/8 of an inch bigger, and I'm going to glue those two together. So then I'm going to add some foam to the back of here, and I'm going to add that onto there. I can also just grab a little cloth and just clean any of the excess paint off those letters as well. And then I'm going to add on my little crayon and my sentiment on some foam pads as well. So then that's that fun card done. So then for this next card, I'm going to use the Die of the Month Club. So it's like an apple, and the apple can have glasses, and then you've got all the different books and things as well. So I'm going to show you them as I make them up. So we've got this little apple, which is this, and I'm just going to add a little bit of black behind here as well, so that his eyes and mouth show up as well. So I'm just going to add that, and then I can just cut off the side. And then there's like a little stalk and a leaf that we'll add on in a minute, and also the little arms, and then some glasses, and then you've also got the graduation hat as well if you're making it for a student rather than a teacher. And then you've got these books that you can make up. So I'm using this teacher one. So for this bigger book, you've got the teacher and the congrats that can go in. So you can use that to cut out the piece that it goes behind. And then you use both of those together if you want to cut out like this teacher or the congrats. This longer one has student and knowledge, and this one here has study and wisdom. So let's put my books together. I've chosen this teacher one and the knowledge one. And then this one I've left blank because on this one I'm going to put this to the best. So I'm going to start from this end so I can make sure we've got enough room. And then you've got this cute little pencil as well that comes in 2 pieces. So I'm just going to glue that together. So then I'm actually going to create the background for this card in exactly the same way that we did the last card, but for a completely different look, because we're not going to go with the rainbow. We're just going to go with the heat embossing on the black so that it looks like a chalkboard. So I'm going to add my black cardstock onto my top plate. Then I'm going to ink up the bottom plate with the Versamark ink just like I did last time. I'm going to add the black over here, and I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine. So then I'm just heat embossing those letters. So now I've cut this piece down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I'm going to add some foam behind there. So while that's just drying under there, I'm going to glue on these glasses. I'm going to glue the little hands behind as well. So then I'm going to grab some foam pads and I'm going to pop all of these pieces up. And then I'm going to pop up my little apple as well. And glue the little pencil on here. And glue on the little apple stem bit. And then I'm going to pop up the leaf. So that's that final card done. So there we've got all 5 of today's cards. I'd love to know which is your favourite. Please do let me know in the comments below. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the comments below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.